a few others to China directly. Now, there's a lot of rumors that China is going around those export controls and importing them into other countries and smuggling them. And there's an entire story there. We're not going to get into that today, though. But are export controls working, assuming that they are actually enforced well? The answer is kind of yes and kind of no. Export controls are working because China doesn't have the same compute resources that the United States has. This is just a fact. Even if they're able to smuggle in chips, it is difficult, and they certainly don't have as much compute as we have in the United States. But if they did, imagine what they'd be able to do. Because on the flip side, the export controls kind of aren't working because they are innovating on the algorithm side. They are coming up with incredible algorithmic unlocks that make training and running inference of these models, including DeepSeek, incredibly efficient. And so even using nerfed GPUs, even using Chinese native GPUs, they're still able to create a frontier level model. And in fact, NVIDIA, specifically Jensen, has made arguments for selling our top GPUs to them. China is going to be developing and producing their own AI chips. They should be built on American technology. And that argument is actually why DeepSeek V4 is actually such a big deal and such a big threat to the US economy. But just the flip side to it, they're gonna make their own chips. They're going to make their own incredible models, and they are going to be very attractive to US companies and our allies. But more on that in a minute. All right, I want to talk about distillation hacking because it's all related. Just a few weeks ago, Anthropic put out a report basically saying they have proof that the top Chinese AI labs have been distillation attacking them for their Claude model. And what does that actually mean? The simplest way to explain what a distillation attack is the Chinese AI labs are essentially trying to steal the data from Claude and from ChatGPT. They're asking it questions, getting the answers, and then using those question-answer pairs to train their own models. Those question answer pairs are everything. That's the IP of companies like Anthropic and OpenAI. And just yesterday, the US government put out a statement on distillation attacks. This is Director Michael Kratsios. The US has evidence that foreign entities, primarily in China, are running industrial-scale distillation campaigns to steal American AI. We will be taking action to protect American innovation. Now, this was already reported by Anthropic a few weeks ago, so this is not really new news, but the US government actually saying, yes, it's happening, is the new part of it. And I'm going to explain why this ties into this overall story in a moment. These foreign entities are using tens of thousands of proxies and jailbreaking techniques and coordinated campaigns to systematically extract American breakthroughs. But here's the thing. If you look at Anthropic's report, the Chinese labs, and specifically DeepSeek, didn't really steal all that much data. And there is actually an argument that they weren't stealing at all. Maybe it's against the terms of service, but a lot of it can be explained by simple benchmark comparisons. If you're a frontier lab and you want to know how well does my model do against my competitor model, well, the only way to know is to run benchmarks against both. And those benchmarks look exactly the same as a distillation attack. All right, so this is the report from Anthropic. I just want to very briefly show one thing. The scale of DeepSeek's distillation attack is just 150,000 exchanges. That is not much. Now, Moonshot, the company behind Kimi, had 3.4 million, and Minimax has 13 million. So certainly DeepSeek of the Chinese labs have been doing this quote unquote distillation attack far less than the other labs. And 150,000 exchanges is not really enough to explain the level of quality that DeepSeek has been able to achieve. And then you pair that with the fact that they've open sourced the whole thing. They have an incredibly detailed and thorough white paper that explains exactly how they were able to achieve it. It just doesn't mesh. And so back to, are export controls actually working? Well, Twitter user Jucon pointed out something very interesting. In the report, because of course, like I said, DeepSeek put out a very thorough report. It says, due to constraints in high-end compute capacity, the current service capacity for Pro is very limited. After the 950 supernodes are launched at scale in the second half of this year, the price of Pro is expected to be reduced significantly. So they are very compute constrained. They were able to bake and produce this model, but they can't even serve it in the most